And this is our top story at this hour. China, a country accused of genocide, detaining minority groups, left and center, and clamping down on freedom of expression. So a trip by the United Nations human rights chief was bound to raise some eyebrows. United States was quick to express concerns. In a statement, the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, said, and I quote, "We are concerned that the conditions Beijing imposed on the visit did not enable a complete and independent assessment of the human rights environment in China, including in Xinjiang, where genocide and crimes against humanity are currently ongoing." End of quote. Michelle Bachelet's long-planned trip took her to the far western region of Xinjiang, exactly where the root of the problem lays. Xinjiang is in northwestern China, which has become a forced home for many Muslim minorities. Reports suggest that Chinese authorities have detained about 1 million Uyghur Muslims there. Beijing calls these facilities quote-unquote vocational training schools. But horrific accounts by former detainees narrate a very different story. It exposes China's human rights violations in Xinjiang. Allegations like rape, torture, and political indoctrination are common. On the paper, the UNHRC did visit Xinjiang, but it's not like her other international visits. This was a completely guided tour, which means where she will go, who she will meet, and who she will talk to. Everything was pre-decided, and not by Bachelet's delegation, but by the men and women sitting in Beijing. So much so that we have received no visuals of her visiting Xinjiang or of talking to any of the minority groups. US says that the residents were strictly directed not to complain in front of the UN team. It is a different kind of censorship that is too common in China, and this is exactly what the United States has an issue with. A trip to Xinjiang is a step towards clarity over the issue. In fact, this was the first visit by China or to China by a UN representative for human rights in 17 years and comes after painstaking negotiations over the conditions of the visit. But a guided tour does not solve anything. In fact, it raises more concerns because it makes the world question China and its atrocities against the minorities. As the West pounced on her, Michelle Bachelet defended her visit, saying it is not an investigation or a probe, just a chance for her to speak with the candor to Chinese authorities. We have already told you that is not what happened.
I should state from the outset what this visit was and what it wasn't. This visit was not an investigation. Official visits by a high commissioner are by their nature high profile and simply not conducive to the kind of detailed, methodical, discrete work of an investigative nature. The visit was an opportunity to hold direct discussions with China's most senior leaders on human rights, to listen to each other, raise concerns, explore, and pave the way for more regular, meaningful interactions in the future.
During foreign visits, we usually tell you about the top agendas, but this is not a usual visit. Let us tell you what are some of the urgent issues that should have been discussed, but were not. First, whereabouts of hundreds of missing Uyghur Muslims. Second, status of over 1 million people in detention camps. Third, confidential meeting with family members of Uyghur diaspora. And lastly, full access to Uyghur camps that have been built by Chinese authorities. And for more on this, Greg Swenson, founding partner of Brigg McAdam Limited, is joining us live from London. Greg, welcome to WION.
Thank you, Eric. Nice to be here.
Many have criticized Michelle Bachelet's visit to China. Some say it seemed about making nice with the Chinese government. Others say her speech was a very measured statement. What is your assessment of Michelle's 6-day China visit?
Well, I'd have to agree with the first comment. This was a missed opportunity, and if anything, was a Communist Party propaganda win. I think the CCP benefited. Of course they did. They planned the visit meticulously, and she wasn't really able to really accomplish much given the scheduling. But I think she could have come out a lot more aggressively in her comments, even if she wasn't permitted to make a more aggressive probe into the situation there. But yes, I think it's a missed opportunity, and it just shows typical lack of clarity from the UN that in making these kind of trips being diplomatic, yes, but also, missing a great opportunity for more clarity on the Uyghur situation.
Greg, let me ask you this. If the human rights body fails to hold Beijing accountable for its alleged human rights abuses, especially on the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in the country, then who will? And will China ever give in or even admit that there is something awfully wrong and happening in our country and we need to change?
Yeah, both great points. And first of all, they will not ever admit it. That's not, honesty is not really one of the CCP's strong points, to say the least. And so I don't think that the UN, yes, they might be the only ones who are in a position to do it, but I don't think that they will. And this is typical. If you look at the Human Rights Council election in October of 2020, they elected Cuba, Pakistan, Russia, which is particularly, hypocritical, but also China's on the council. This was only 7 months after China had kept the secrets about the Wuhan virus, about COVID, from the world. And now, you see China executing these massive lockdowns on their own people. So it's particularly ironic that they're a member of the Human Rights Council. Yes, the UN could play a role, but I doubt they will. And it really shows ultimately the inefficiency or the lack of effectiveness of the UN.
Greg, I want your generic view on this. China's policies have always been in contention. Will that ever change?
Oh, of course it could change, Eric, and I hope it does. But for now, it looks like they will continue with the dishonesty that they've always displayed. Lack of candor is probably an understatement. But what they're doing, not only with the Uyghurs, but with the lockdowns, with the absolute secrecy and dishonesty around COVID, and then, of course, what they're doing in Hong Kong after agreeing to, having a specific arrangement with the United Kingdom when they turned Hong Kong back to the Chinese. So, and I should add, with Tiananmen Square, I've discussed this with Chinese tourists that are here in London. They don't even know about Tiananmen Square. So, I wouldn't look to the CCP for candor or honesty on any of these issues. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised about the lack of candor about, on the Uyghur situation.
We'll have to end it there, Greg. I've been talking to founding partner of Brig McAdam Limited, Greg Swenson. Thank you very much for making time and for talking to WION today.
Thank you, Eric.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.